Instead, McCord will roll the pocket. Looking for Pena. Hits him for the score.
It's just right here, right? This.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Signal Caller. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Solo Lopez, the Solo Lopez on Twitter. I am PORSBR is my Twitter handle, so check me out there. And then also, listen, like when you come to the channel, I'm gonna be straight with you. 60-70%, we get analytics. Watch the show, watch our shows, but do not subscribe. You're already there. Just subscribe. Just subscribe. I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world to do so. And also on Instagram, you can check me out there, and then on Blue Sky as well. On Instagram, it's put on waivers _podcast. Put on waivers _podcast. So a lot going on with the Raiders. Just some quick thoughts from Solo real quick on the press conference that they just had the other day. Was with new GM John Spytek and Pete Carroll, the new head coach of Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, well, we had the over-under of the phrase, we want to build a physical team at like 5. And it turned out to be the hot phrase was, we just want guys that love football. So it was going to be one cliche analogy or another in that sense. It ended up being the we love football situation. I quoted really, and I'll be honest, I'm burned out on these pressers, the introductory pressers, and we've 100%. Done 5 now in the last however many years, like 6 years or whatever. I'm burned out on them. And so they all say the same thing, basically the general idea of the same thing. But the one quote that I absolutely loved out of all this was when John Spytek said, you know, and I tweeted this too. I retweeted everything. I cut the video together, the presser. The only thing that's relevant to us right now is when he looked over and he said, you know what? The one thing I really loved about what Pete Carroll did in Seattle is they took shot after shot after shot after quarterback, no matter if they try to use high capital, try to find the guy, to trade for him, whatever they had to do to get that guy. And then they ended up finding Russ in the 3rd round, which was an unbelievable move, even though he was undersized. That was the one thing that is relevant to our organization. Because as we know, and the reason why this show literally exists on YouTube is because the Raiders do not draft quarterbacks. And they just do not, they actively refuse to put, to divert as many assets as they can into the quarterback position, which for the life of me, I still can't understand. We are now on our 5th GM, our 5th general manager since Al Davis. And Al Davis is still the last general manager of the Raiders that has drafted a quarterback in the 1st round. In fact, he's the only one that's ever drafted a quarterback in the 1st round. It's inexcusable. There's no justifications. There's no excuses. I don't care about what happened last year about settling in and nobody wanted to trade, or we're in the 6th pick this year. There's no way we can get a quarterback. There's just no excuse. There's no excuse. You have to find a starter. And as we go into every offseason, the 2 questions that are most pertinent to every organization at the beginning of that is, are you a Super Bowl contender, or do you have the quarterback of the future on the roster? If both of the answers to those questions are no, then you have wasted everybody's time. My time, your time, the fans' time, everybody's time is wasted. There's no excuse to have a down year and be like, we're just going to rebuild this team if you do not have a quarterback on the team. You are just wasting Brock Bowers. You're wasting Max Crosby. You're wasting JPJ. You're wasting all the best talent on the team. Max Crosby is going into his 6th year? 6th year, and 5 of those years he's been an elite pass rusher. And now we have to pay him again. This is what happens when you waste time and not draft quarterbacks. So that was the most relevant thing. Pete Carroll was not my first choice, but he was far from my last choice in that case. Considering what Dallas did, it could be a lot worse for the Raiders. You could be in the same situation where nobody wants to coach that team. Kellen Moore might be the obvious choice now, but he could still turn around and say no. But it sounds like, based on the idea that Mike McCarthy is staying, and Kellen Moore is not, that he's likely going to go to the Saints. But it could be a lot worse for the Raiders than Pete Carroll.
It could be. So. It could be no question about it. And you said the mouthful there, but everything you said, I agree with. I think him making that point was very made a lot of sense to say, hey, like, we're not. I'm not. Pete didn't talk about effing around. And I don't think Spytek did either. In my opinion. So they want to do it done. They want to do what they have to do to get everything done now so they can just start winning some ball games as well too. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. So quarterback show. So let's talk quarterbacks, right? Let's talk about Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. Obviously had a great year last year. Did some really nice things in that Syracuse offense. Came from Syracuse via Ohio State. What are some of your thoughts about Kyle McCord? So we can kind of like get him in the get him into familiar grounds with Raider Nation.
Yeah.
I think that some sites have him as the fifth best quarterback. Some have him as like the 10th best quarterback. So there's a range there.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what your flavor is. What do you think?
I think that there's going to be a tier of guys that are all after the third guy. And I think it's pretty clear now that the media has chosen Jackson Dart in terms of being their guy that's going to be the draft riser. We've already heard Mel Kiper talk about it. People were talking about Jackson Dart moving up the draft boards, pretty clearly and substantially before the regular season ended in that regard. So we started hearing his name. As soon as Drew Lar and Carson Beck went back to college, it seemed like Jackson Dart was the obvious next guy that was going to be moving up the draft boards. And so after Jackson Dart, in my opinion, there's going to be the tier of guys where Kyle McCord is going to either find himself in the middle of, or he's going to be able to move himself up into that fourth or fifth quarterback range. So it's going to be like Quinn Ewers, Milroe, McCord, and Will Howard. Those are like the four guys that we're going to be looking at in that regard. So is he going to be able to separate himself between now and the draft? We'll see. But I like just on the surface level right now, as we start this process to really, really get down to the nuts and bolts of these guys, just on the surface level, he has a good delivery. He's quick decisions. He has a massive chip on his shoulder. He's not afraid to throw the ball. He's not afraid of the moment is what it seems like with him. Going from Ohio State to turn around and leading the entire college football in passing yards in that regard, and elevating Syracuse, elevating his team to basically having one of the top passing offenses in the nation. Mm-hmm. It's not a small feat. It's not a small thing, and it means the guy has ability. It means the guy is not afraid to play the game, is not afraid to make those passes, and he has good intangibles and a good base in order to build on. Is he a first rounder, second rounder? Probably not. Is he going to be able to push his way up into that point? I doubt it. I think he'll probably push his way into the top 5 quarterbacks. I think that's a safe bet, along with Will Howard and Jalen Milroe, in my opinion. So I think we'll be around that range. I think he'll be probably a fringe third rounder, fourth rounder type of guy.
Yeah. I think that obviously we kind of spoke about him with the release. I like the release. He's a good leader. I won't say leader of men, which is hilarious because over under on hearing that in the off season was pretty crazy. He keep hearing people say leader of men, but no, good leader. Between the ears, he has that. That was a great sorry, hold on. He is great arm, great ability to kind of, I like the tape I have against NC State. He wasn't squeamish in the pocket, like what I'm saying. We've seen that before. He'll take the hit. I mean, he deliver it, turn his back, take the hit, and then live to play another day. Not a complete statue. Although he's not going to remind you of Milroe running the football or anybody like that, or Cam Ward. I thought it was really, I think the game where he really had a chance to kind of put his, what's on the table was them stopping Miami from making the playoff.
Sure.
I thought that was, that was pretty much their game. And they were like, you know what, Miami, you had a great year. You probably have the quarterback who's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, but nah, bro, you're not going to playoff. You're not going to playoff. So
not being afraid of that type of situation and that type of game, that's big, because he's going to be evaluated against Cam Ward just like everyone else is, in any other capacity where there's no consensus number 1 generational guy in this draft. You're going to be weighed against every other quarterback there. So, and he just wasn't afraid of the moment, and he wasn't afraid of the season that he had. And I think he believed that he could output that type of season, and he went and produced. And here we are talking about him in this situation going into this year's draft.
Yeah, and then as far as like the 15 to 25 yard passes too, is like a lot of there's a lot of offenses in the league that live there. Like, you know what I mean? Like really, they
Hmm.
really live in between that, between those distances from the line of scrimmage, and he's really good there. So like
Yeah.
that's where I think that's where I think he can really excel. And then also his deep ball is a very nice when he gives his deep ball, and like it's something that we talked about before, and it's it is what it is, but it's simple, but he gives his receivers a chance to make a
Yeah.
play. It sounds silly to say it, like, of course they no, not everybody does that. Like, not every quarterback does that. You have to have that ability to do so, and he's been able to do that in a short period of time. So I think a couple of the negative parts of it, the kind of the cons. Just like a lot of young quarterbacks, locks on the receivers a little bit too long.
Hmm.
He does not. He's not an elite athlete, so you have to build it in front of him. As far as that goes, and then need to adjust kind of his arm angles in the NFL. We got to see how tall he is. Was he's at a senior? Did they see his height? Did you see? Remember his height?
I didn't see it. I don't think
Yeah,
he got measured.
I don't think I measured yet. So like just being able to throw from different angles as well too, because sometimes
Yeah.
you might have to come a little bit of sidearm just to get that ball around incoming pass rusher as well. But I do, like I said, if they ended up on him like a third round, whatever, I would definitely say like that would be something that I'll be definitely down for, depending on what, because
Hmm.
the Raiders could be stuck in a situation where there really isn't anything there, because they got refused the number one pick, um, or they just didn't have anybody fall in their lap. So
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that and we'll talk about, actually I'll say that for later. Let me write it down real quick. I say one question for later. But I think he's definitely in play. I think he definitely can run though. I definitely can run whatever offense that Pete Carroll wants to do. And let's face it,
Yeah.
like his biggest success came from the third round quarterback who
Sure. Yeah.
took care of the football and can make all the throws.
Yeah, and I think that's important to be able to have a guy that's going to trust his rookie. I think Pete Carroll has earned the benefit of the doubt of seeing a young quarterback or seeing a quarterback that needs change, that needs molded a little bit, gives them the confidence to be successful in that, based on our other favorite position in this draft, which is running back, based on finding a quality run game, finding a guy, insulating your young quarterback about that. John Spytek hit on that a lot in the presser. We want to find quarterbacks, but we want to be able to build a team for that quarterback to be successful. It's the hardest position in the NFL to play, so we want to make it as easy as possible for that guy to play. You have to build a good team around that, and that's all fine and that's great. But in my opinion, it's a little backwards because finding that guy later has always been the Raiders' problem, and not going after that guy initially is a big deal. And it doesn't sound like they're going to put a high premium on that yet, and which is disappointing to think about. But that could just be my first initial reaction, and then lo and behold, they could draft a guy at number 6 overall as well as pay a guy in the free agency. We don't know what's going to happen yet.
Yeah.
So if it's going to be that guy, and I've seen some mock drafts with some prominent people that don't take a quarterback at all. And that to me is lunacy. Whether if it's Will Howard, Kyle McCord, Milrow, Ewers, it doesn't matter who it is. If you don't get the guy at the 6th overall pick and you don't get the guy at 39, then in between that 39th pick and basically every other pick in for the rest of the draft, you have to take a flyer on a young guy. You just have to. You have to. It doesn't matter who it is. If he's on your board in that range, you have to take a flyer. The nature of the position is so much more impactful than any other position, and it's basically more impactful than almost any other position combined. If you really think about it,
Yeah.
it's just the way the game is played, and we harp on this every year. We're broken records because every year the Raiders refuse to do it. So even if you miss out on Jackson Dart and Ward and Shadir Sanders, that means you have less accountability to that player in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round if you take him. But that 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounder can turn into Russell Wilson or turn into one of those guys. So you have to take a flyer
100%.
just to try.
Yeah.
Yes, they can turn into Tyler Wilson and they can turn into a half dozen others. I get that. but you have to take the flyer regardless. You have to put young blood into this team. It cannot be Aiden O'Connell. It cannot be Gardner Minshew. I would be ecstatic if if Aiden O'Connell never played another snap for the Raiders. I don't understand the love affair with Aiden O'Connell. I don't understand anything about it. He's not a good quarterback. He's just not. He's barely a good backup.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you. You
Yeah,
can do all the
yeah.
comparisons you want to CJ Stroud and all those stats and whatever the case may be. I do not care. My eyes tell me that he's not a good quarterback because we've seen it now over the course of 2 years. He's just not a guy that's going to be a game changer for the Raiders.
Yeah.
So you need to go get a guy. You need 3 new quarterbacks, or at least 2. You need 3 new running backs, and you need more players on this offense to support the quarterback position. So take a flyer on a Kyle McCord. In the 3rd or 4th round, you have 2 third-rounders. Take a flyer on one of these young guys, bring him in, see what he can do, and if he's good, then you've hit on a quarterback. Now everything else changes, but quarterback is the only thing that matters. It really is the only thing that matters.
100%.
I don't care what anybody says.
The folks try to convince us otherwise, but we know better. So his passing.
We see the results every single year with the Raiders. We see it every year.
So
22 years we haven't won a playoff game. It's not because we didn't have a good team. I promise you that.
Let's see. So in 13 games, McCord the team went 10-3. He had 66% completion percentage, 4,779 yards, 8 yards per. What's really important is 8 yards per attempt. So, and then you have 34 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 148. But he only had 67 yards rushing. So like I said, like he is a passer. When he gets the ball, he's trying to get rid of it as well. And I don't think Syracuse did anything as far as having him in the center. Most teams don't do it anyway. So I know that's the thing that nobody does it. No, I mean I just watched back-to-back weeks where I had Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and both their offensive coordinators, they got the ball at the 2-yard line, and none of them put any of those guys in the center. So for a quarterback sneak or anything. So and they're both going home. Surprise, surprise. So that's it on Kyle McCord. We'll kind of revisit him as the process goes, but we want to get it's a quarterback show, and we want to get a quarterback out of the way. So you guys can talk about this. So you guys can talk.
And we're early in this process. We're very early in this.
Yeah,
this is just the start of this offseason. We're in draft season now. So
100%. So running backs, this is a deep draft for it. Thank God it's a deep draft for running backs, because the Raiders need running backs. And the free agency class is really bad. I think when you get like people like Cam Akers and people like that are some of the best options, you really don't want to screw with that one.
Yeah.
But
Aaron Jones is really the only one, and the Vikings would be really, really good to sign him back. So
most likely, I mean they're a winning team, so it kind of makes sense for him to go back to Minnesota rather than go somewhere else. Thoughts about this running back class? I know you're really excited about it. I don't know if you got a top 5 or anything like that, but what are your thoughts about the draft this year as far as running backs go?
So I love this is the deepest position in this draft, in my opinion, right now. I know a lot of people are going to say interior defensive lineman. That's fine. If that's where you want to go, that's totally okay with me. I think it's running back. I think there's 7 to 10 guys right now that can be effective NFL football players right now, like next week. Like, I really, really believe in this draft class. Omarion Hampton is a stud. I'm really nervous about him going to any number of our division rivals in the 20s. Like, if he goes to the Chargers in the 20s, the Broncos in the 20s, the Chiefs in the 30s, like, that's going to be a massive issue for the Raiders, because they need a guy like that. And I don't think they're going to take Ginty at 6th overall, who's likely going to be the first running back taken in the top 15, most likely. Dallas, the Niners, the Bears. There's a couple players a couple teams that could take flyers on him. And in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round is where these guys are going to get real like a lot of shine, I should say. Like, a lot, like, this is where these guys' value is going to skyrocket, in my opinion. Because if you're looking at a Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round, a Trevion Henderson in the 3rd round, Quishon Judkins in the 3rd or 4th round, Ollie Gordon in the 3rd or 4th round. Like, you're looking at guys that are real, legitimate game record type of players that you could put in a system to be good. Ollie Gordon is 6'1", 230 pounds, and he's got a long, huge upper body frame. He runs well. He runs powerful. He breaks a lot of tackles. And this guy was, he put on tape 2 years ago one of the best running back seasons they had in the season, in that situation. So there's a lot of talent in the later rounds, a lot of guys that I think can be massive contributors later on. You have Trevor Etienne in this draft. You have Raheem Sanders in this draft. You have Tosh Brooks in this draft. You have a lot of really Devin Neal is in this draft. So you just got so many guys that are here. And I've maintained this for now, I think 2 months now. The Raiders have to take two of these guys. They have the worst quarterback room and the worst running back room in football. You have to take two of these guys.
Yeah.
And even if you don't take two, you have to take one, but that means you paid for a guy in free agency, whoever that is, or you traded for one. Like Zach Charbonnet is right there in Seattle. He's right there. He played for Pete Carroll. He's right there. He's on Seattle. Ken Walker could be on his way out from Seattle. You have these guys that you can move, that you can try to see, hey, what's going on over there with Zach Charbonnet? Are you going to keep him? What's going on with Ken Walker? Are you going to pay him? What's going on with Nick Chubb? Is Nick Chubb going to be away from Cleveland? I would 1,000% pay a vet minimum deal or like a $3-4 million deal to Nick Chubb if he decided he wants to leave and take a 1-year prove-it deal with somebody. 1,000%. And not only is Nick Chubb a good running back, I still think he's coming off his injury. He's probably a little slow in Cleveland, but he's an excellent teammate and an excellent locker room guy. Everybody loves Nick Chubb. Everybody loves being teammates with Nick Chubb. Everybody wants to root for Nick Chubb. That's the guy you bring in. Give me Nick Chubb and Amarian Hampton. Give me Nick Chubb and Caleb Johnson. Like, give me somebody in those pairings. I cannot see Amir Abdullah run for another goddamn touchdown. I just can't do it. As a fantasy player and as a Raider fan, I just can't see these guys getting these carries. It kills me
Shout out
that you have a league like this. That the Raiders are so bad.
Shout out to Amir Abdullah, who did help me with my fantasy championship.
Hey man, congrats! But
I know.
My goodness,
it was bad.
I don't know how the Raiders. We always seem to find this situation ourselves in this situation with the Raiders. Oh, it was Sincere McCormick for a week. And then all of a sudden, Ted Wynn is out there on the video saying, well, the Raiders might not need a running back next year because Sincere McCormick had 80 yards in one game, falling into the exact same trap that everybody fell into last year with Zamir White. Guess what? The running back room was atrocious. Everybody was bad. Nothing helped the Raiders. And now it's time to stop playing these games that we have the starting players on this roster. We don't. We have to invest in these positions.
Yeah, we do, and 100%. So, can I just pick your brain a little bit here? As far as Amarion Hampton, because as you talk, I'm doing a simulation draft. Look, what is it about his game that you like so much? Because I kind of want to spotlight him a little bit, just only because I know you like him a lot as a player.
I think he does everything well. Everything. I think he cuts well. I think he's going to be a good receiver in the backfield. I think he has great burst, great vision. I think he's got really good breakaway speed in terms of hitting that. And once he makes that first guy miss, he's got breakaway speed from the guy, from the defenses. I like his frame, his size. He just reminds me of a very complete back at the next level. One of those guys that for some reason falls to the second round, but he has elite first round talent. He's a Jonathan Taylor type. Why did Jonathan Taylor fall to the second round? How did that happen? How did Nick Chubb fall to the second round? These guys are complete backs when they come out. And I think they're ready to take on that role. And that's what you want. You want to find a guy that can do everything well. And I think he does everything well. I think he's an exotic runner in terms of being able to be big, physical, but outrun you as well. In terms of that, I think those guys are unique. And I just think he's a really, really good player. I think he's got great vision, and I think he runs the ball incredibly well. He doesn't run high. He doesn't have massive fumbling issues. He doesn't have fundamental mistakes. I just think he's a really good running back. And he's a guy that I would really, really consider taking in the second round in that situation if he falls there. I would not be shocked to see Amarian Hampton sneak into the first round. I mean, what if Pittsburgh takes him? What if the Chargers take him? What if the Broncos take him? There's a lot of teams in those 20s that could use a guy like Amari Hampton. And if he goes to that situation and they take advantage of his physical gifts and his ability and his and all his traits that he brings to an NFL team, they're going to be ecstatic to get a guy like that because he is really good.
He is a talented back as well. So I mean, so listen, they have it's some great opportunity for some of these teams to improve themselves as far as and as far as the running game goes, and I think the Raiders definitely would behoove themselves, and I think they will. I do think this is a regime. I'm pretty confident that this regime is going to improve themselves, improve the offensive backfield, and I think that's one of they have a lot of needs, but that's one of the biggest needs. So they gotta take care of everything, everything in that backfield as well. Are there any guys?
I will say this: like Amari Hampton and Trey Smith literally fixed this run game from one of the worst in the league to a premium option for them. Ashton Jeanty in the 6th. I know people don't want that. I get it. But if that's the case, if they decided to just throw the cards on him at the 6th overall pick, if you've already signed, one of these really good guards, because there's 4 really good free agency guards starting with Trey Smith.
Yep.
Then you add him to JPJ and Dylan Parham and Glaze and Colton Miller. Now you have a monster offensive line with a premium guy in the middle and a good tackles and good run blocking offensive line. And you add a premium elite talent like Ashton Jeanty at the 6th overall pick or Amari Hampton. You could make 2 moves this offseason and change the entire dynamic of your football team just by addressing the run game. And they're going to. They've said it multiple times. Pete Carroll loves running backs. Spy Tech found, was a part of the room that drafted Bucky Irving, completely 100% changed the Buccaneers rushing attack last year. Bucky Irving did. So, and they found him late. So it's just a matter of these guys are going to find the running backs, just a matter of who. They're going to build the offensive line in order to be a game wrecker, to find the lanes, to open up the lanes, open up the holes for this rushing attack. And they're going to want to be physical up front, and they're going to want to run the football. It's just it's a matter of fact. I know it for a fact. It's going to happen. That is the 100% guarantee from this show. They're going to want to find these running backs. This is the perfect coach to bring in when we have the perfect position class in this situation for them to be able to change their dynamic. I said it about a week ago. I think the Raiders in this offseason would do well to try to mimic as best they can the Dallas Cowboys 2016 offseason, where they got Dak in the 4th round. They drafted Zeke in the top 5. I think he was 4th overall pick. They improved that. They added those guys to an already talented but struggling roster, and they solidified their running back and their running game position. He ended up rushing for, I think, 1,500 yards as a rookie or 1,600. He lost out rookie of the year to Dak, who was really good. But in my opinion, Zeke Elliott was the best offensive player on that team. Yeah. And he should have won rookie of the year. And that's what they drafted him to do, exactly what he did for them. And so I think if they mimic an offseason like that, where they've solidified their offensive line, they use a premium pick, whether it's a 1st or 2nd on a running back, and they try to find the quarterback in a different basis and use the resources they have otherwise than that and try to find a quarterback in that regard. They could change the whole dynamic of their offense, because then if you add play action and an elite run game to a team that has Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, especially Brock Bowers, now you're in business. Yeah. Now you have added wrinkles to your team to where you can be dangerous in multiple spots. The Raiders were only dangerous with Brock Bowers because their running back was atrocious and their quarterback play was awful.
Which makes what Bowers did even more amazing as well. Looking at the other side of the tenor as far as guys who are later round picks for running backs who I like. RJ Harvey, I think he is very a hands catcher out of the backfield. UCF can do some things there. Is having a good time at the Senior Bowl as well. Shout out to Jordan who's at the Senior Bowl. And having a good time over there. First time there. So good job by him. And then you got Devin Neal. My eyes weren't really on Devin Neal until the Colorado game. And I was just okay. I was like, who is it? Like, who is this? Yeah. And I ran to all 22 to try to find him. Yeah. I know I'm a USC fan, but like Woody Marks is a guy who, because I watched his pass pro he is a guy who can run the football, doesn't have blazing speed, but can hit the hole, has a very ability to jump from side to side and jump cut and make some huge runs. And also is a guy who can catch the ball in the backfield. I think he had one of those long stretches of time where he had like 30, 45 games, like 30 or 40 games in a row where he had at least one catch in it. And so
That's
he's
impressive in college football.
yes, it's hard. I mean, he went from in at USC it was a little bit easier, but then he was I think he was either at Mississippi State where is where he was before. So
Yeah.
that's a place as well to look at, like his ability to do those things. He could definitely help any NFL roster. Not a big Scatterboo fan, but we'll see when he runs before I say that. Before I say that, so but this is a really talented really talented group of running backs here, and I'm excited to see what
Scatterboo could either
do.
be Gerhardt or he could come in and be someone else. He could be better than Gerhardt. So the Toby Gerhardt comparisons are obviously going to be very, very natural. They're going to be very easy. It's low hanging fruit. I get it, but it is what it is. Like that's who he could
what it
be.
is. Yeah,
So.
yeah. And I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna put things on his like against him. Like I mean, like if he runs well, like draft. I mean, somebody if it's a team's offensive style of play. Go ahead, Cam. Go do your thing. Go get your money.
He will open a lot of people's eyes if he goes to a team like the Rams or goes to like if the Miami drafts him or San Francisco drafts him. Like the people will then be like, "Oh my God, what was I missing? What did I miss?" If someone like that drafts him.
Yeah, I think he better come through. Like, you know what I mean? But I mean, like, I shouldn't say for him, but I'm saying like for the organization, like, there's so many running backs in this draft. I'm not saying waste the pick on Scatterboo, but like it better be coming from a position of we have an abundance, and I just want to maybe see what this is.
Yeah, it's a luxury pick.
It's a luxury. It's a luxury pick. It's a luxury pick.
It's not a guy that you risk your number one starting depth position on right now.
There you go. You said a mouthful there. Before we go, I wanted you to kind of we had somebody in the comments one time said something about I don't see how Ollie Gordon could be undrafted. But what are your thoughts about Ollie Gordon, the running back out of Oklahoma State?
I love this. I love Ollie Gordon. I am all in on getting this guy inside of the fourth, fifth round. Had a down year. I get it. He was not the running back he was 2 years ago. I think he dealt with some injuries last year. I think he dealt with some injuries at the end of the 2 years ago, if I'm being honest. Was not the running back that he put together that the unbelievable season he had 2 years ago. But and I understand that. But I think that guy is. I think he runs incredibly hard, and I think he's got that upright, really tough style when he launches that forearm or that stiff arm into you. I think he creates a lot of leverage with his running style, and he's not an explosive athlete. But if you look at like Derrick Henry and the way those guys run the football, like a Derrick Henry type or a Josh Jacobs, those guys are creating contact balance leverage using their frames and using their bodies and the way they run. Their running style helps elevate their extra yardage after contact. And I think that he's that type of guy. He fits into the mold where no, he's not going to give you, a 60-yard or 70-yarder, on a whim every other game or whatnot. But you know what he's going to do? He's going to turn a 3-yard gain into a 6-yard gain. He's going to turn a 6-yard gain into a 24-yard gain. He's going to break the initial tackle, and he's going to be able to use his body and use his contact balance to find the extra yardage. And that's what I absolutely love about him. He's a tough runner. He's probably going to come into this with a chip on his shoulder, knowing that there are other guys. There are probably going to be 5, 6, 7 guys that are going to be drafted ahead of him. It's a guy that's going to have attitude at the next level, that's going to want to be physical, that's going to want to hurt people at the next level if they try to tackle him. He's just a monster with long, physical, upright stature arms, and I like him a lot. Undrafted, there's no way. There's no way.
I agree with you. All right, signal caller. Let me see what we're gonna. Let me just make a note of what we're gonna do.
What was the question?
You answered it. Yeah, because the question was Ollie Gordon.
Oh, okay.
We were to respond to Ollie Gordon, but What?
Yeah, undrafted.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I
What?
mean, I would be really, really shocked. Like, I mean, something catastrophic would have to happen between now and then, I think, in my opinion. A
Yeah.
Laramie Tunsil video or a devastating injury or something like to that effect.
Video.
A Lyle Collins situation where he's falsely
Larry,
accused.
Larry might have put that out by himself to not go somewhere. The media is trying to push a player on us, and I think that player is Dylan Gabriel. So that's something.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm not really thrilled with. But let's do Dylan Gabriel next week. Let's do Dylan Gabriel next week. Because I mean,
I will say this: as Raider fans, you will hear a lot of, well, Russell Wilson was under 6 feet tall, and they got him in the later rounds. Get ready for that talk because it's coming. It's already started.
Yeah, so it's already started.
75-mile-an-hour ball that was thrown today. And
yeah,
like,
that it was
64,
it was. Yeah, we can't verify it. I got. I mean, that was out there, but I think Ryan we can verify that. So I'm gonna see.
Not only can we not verify it, it doesn't matter in the slightest. It just doesn't.
So next week will be Mr. Dylan Gabriel, key of almost every college football team in the world throughout his career. I mean, he played for everybody. He's everybody, like, everybody's girl as far as that goes. All right. All right, Raider Nation. We'll see you next time. A signal caller. We'll talk position groups, and we'll also talk about Dylan Gabriel. Kind of give you a short synopsis of what to think about. And then this is also pre-draft, pre stuff. So I mean, maybe he'll do something later. But yeah, we'll do some Dylan Gabriel next week. All right, y'all. Take care. Go Raiders.
Go Raiders.